Hello and welcome to Your Employment Matters. I'm Beverly Williams and I'm here to help you navigate your career. This is for anyone who's searching for their dream job or promotion, or perhaps you're just looking to hang on to the job you have. Today's work environments are multi-generational, multi-religious, multinational, multiracial, and multi-gender identity. Add market disruptors like Amazon and Lyft, along with the addition of AI, and it's easy to see why finding and keeping a job is such a challenge. Employment success and even employment survival depend on your ability to adapt. That's why my goal for this 30-minute podcast is to first advocate embracing change and differences, and second, to encourage you to proactively assume responsibility for your career. Get your work week off to a good start by listening to Your Employment Matters every Monday. Find out how to own your career and get the best practices for making your employment matter. Hello, it's Beverly Williams, author of Your GPS to Employment Success, How to Find and Succeed in the Right Job, and host of this podcast, Your Employment Matters. My continued goal is to provide for your consideration my perspective about employment matters, and to the extent that hot topics in pop culture, sports, entertainment, and media in general have an employment bent, I'll include that too. Right now, I'm working on a series of podcast interviews about labor management relations and alternative dispute resolution. Because after years of decline in union membership, after more than 2 years of COVID-19 and working remotely, and the impact of the Great Resignation, there is cautious optimism about a resurgence of unionism. For example, whether unionism will resurge or simply sputter, there is union activity in interesting and, in my opinion, surprising areas. The United Auto Workers are eyeing Tesla. Interesting. I'm sure people at Tesla are concerned about that. Congressional staffers began an organization drive toward unionism in Washington, D.C. Starbucks employees in Oxford, Mississippi, of all places, and reportedly in more than 100 stores nationally, have made moves toward becoming unionized. Apple Store employees are also quietly exploring whether to unionize. Now, another development related to unionism is the state of Michigan's recent repeal of its right to work law. Simply stated, now unionized workplaces can require all employees to pay union dues and fees. I'm sure the unions are happy about that, at least the ones in Michigan. Now, as I said, my aim is to provide knowledgeable information by interviewing knowledgeable individuals. And in this instance, I've asked them to share their labor management experience so that you will receive reliable information about both sides, labor management, as well as the neutral side, mediators, arbitrators, what we call neutrals. So I'm looking for union members and union leaders. I'm looking for management people. I'm looking for people who can shed light on a process that was enacted in 1935. So it's been a long time out there, and I think we need to dust it off and buff it up a little bit. But that's another one of my opinions that I will share with you at a later date. Now that I've told you about my plans for a special series of interviews, I'm going to periodically do a solo interview, a solo soliloquy, as it were, called In My Opinion. So now, today, however you listen to this, whenever you listen to this one is called You Don't Know What You Don't Know and Why You Don't Know It. Now, you may think, oh, she must have had a few drinks. This sounds like double talk, but I assure you that it isn't. First of all, there is no shame in saying that you don't know. There is also no shame in seeking help. When you seek help, just remember someone may come to you asking you for help. Return the favor and be grateful and thank the person who helps you. Now, the reason I say that you know what you know and you don't know what you don't know and why you don't know it is because often in work environments, information is disseminated, shared, distributed, however you characterize it. Employees get information in different ways, but it's usually, if it's official and formal, it's delivered in measured doses on a need to know basis. Remember this, as an employee, no matter how talented you are, how gifted you may be, or how brilliant you've been told you are, you will not be privy to information that, for example, is above your pay grade. Now, by comparison, temporary workers don't receive health insurance, retirement benefits, sick and vacation days, severance, or unemployment benefits, but they do get paid. Now, these temporary workers may be called gig workers, independent contractors, contingent workers, or freelancers. It doesn't matter what they're called. They don't receive the benefits that regular hourly or salaried employees receive. The benefits they receive, though, and the compensation they're paid are negotiated either by them or by a third party on their behalf. Now, what's imperative, very important, is that temporary workers, independent contractors, you want to make sure that the benefits or prerequisites you require or you want are specifically included in the agreement that you're working under. A prerequisite is a perk. It's similar to something that a worker receives in addition to monetary compensation. If you're new to an industry or dissatisfied with the compensation and perks that you've received to date, become better informed about how things are done. How do you go about increasing the number or the quality of the perks that you are receiving? Is it possible for you to do this? It may not be. But typically, there are active and retired professionals who will willingly offer advice and share their experience. Now, I'm an advocate of multiple income streams and consider whether you can turn a passion or avocation into an income generating venture. Creating multiple income streams and turning a revenue generating venture into a brand or product are examples of how creative people can be in trying times. Now, listeners, wherever you are, and I hope you're listening, your suggestions are welcome. Please let me know if there's a subject, a profession, or an industry that you would like to learn more about, and I'll make every effort to get someone to interview so that we can learn more about it. As I said before, my goal is to provide information that you can use and that you don't have to pay for. But having said that, my book, Your GPS to Employment Success, How to Find and Succeed in the Right Job, will be helpful as a guide as you search for employment, and it's available on Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, and independent bookstores everywhere. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about is for people who are looking for work and who may be disabled. Now, the question I pose is, do you disclose your disability or do you keep it to yourself? To disclose or not to disclose your disability. Now, the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act prohibits employers that are covered by the Act from, among other things, discriminating against qualified individuals because they're disabled. And the qualified is important. You can't, just because you're disabled doesn't mean you're going to get a job. You have to be qualified for the job you're applying for. But if you are qualified and you are disabled, there are certain benefits that the ADA provides. Now, to benefit from the ADA, you applicants must be able to perform the job requirements with a reasonable accommodation. And whether an accommodation is reasonable or not is determined by several factors. One, the cost, and another is whether it would be an undue burden on the employer to provide it. Now, if you need a piece of equipment that costs, call it $100,000, that's an unreasonable burden. But if you need a standing desk as opposed to a desk that you sit at, that may not be considered unduly burdensome, especially if you work for a large company. Now, if you work for a small shop, it might be burdensome depending on the cost and depending on the profit margins of the business. Now, under the ADA, a disability is defined as a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more life activities. Job applicants or employees with a physical or mental health condition that meets these criteria have rights under the ADA. Don't be embarrassed to disclose your condition. It's better for you to have disclosed your disability so that you can receive the benefits that the ADA affords you rather than keep it secret and maybe become sick at work because you haven't had your medication, you haven't perhaps taken the walks and been outside to get fresh air as your doctor has suggested or required. You need to take care of yourself so that you can work. And the ADA provides benefits that can help you do so. Now, the dilemma is whether or not to disclose the disability, which is not readily discernible. If you have a broken leg or you have one leg that's shorter than the other, or you're blind in one eye and you may have a patch, or you have a glass eye, or anything that's readily visible to the naked eye, that's going to be obvious. But if it's not discernible during a job interview or when there's a job offer or promotion offered, that is a dilemma because you have to decide whether or not you're going to disclose the disability. Now, the dilemma exists because you may not need an accommodation every day. For example, a medical condition might be in remission. And as a result, you feel better and you think your condition is no longer a problem. It's no longer active. It's not an issue. Now, you may simply be wrong or mistaken, but keep in mind, anyone who decides not to disclose their disability to a prospective employer who extends an offer of employment should reconsider that choice. If a reasonable accommodation is needed later, the employer may feel that the failure to disclose the disability was dishonest. How are you going to convince them otherwise? You may not even be given an opportunity to do so. Now, admittedly, despite the ADA's prohibition against discrimination, there are unscrupulous employers who will not hire an individual because they have a disability. Employers who know better will offer another reason for rejecting that individual. Fortunately, by comparison, there are numerous employers who not only abide by the ADA, they actively recruit diverse candidates, including the disabled. These employers recognize the advantages of hiring a disabled worker. Disabled workers have learned, because of their disabilities, to be flexible, to pivot. They've also learned to overcome adversity. They're problem solvers. They've trained themselves to adapt to their environment, and they tend to be grateful for a job and are therefore loyal. And you can't beat loyalty with a stick. Now, disabled applicants may have to persuade prospective employers to hire them. Here's a tip, write this down. One approach is to prepare a list of famous, successful people who had or have disabilities. Google that. Famous, successful people who had or have disabilities. I consider starting your list with President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Now, you're going to be looking for a job. We're moving from disabilities, and I'm just going to give you some quick tips about how to proceed, how to prepare for your job search. Preparation is critical. I can't emphasize that enough. Don't fly by the seat of your pants. You need to plan your days, conduct research. But first, you have to set the tone as you move forward. Before you move forward, but you set the tone on how you're going to move forward. You're going to prepare. You're going to mentally set your mindset. This is the worst job market ever. Whether it is or it isn't, that's the mindset, because that will make you work harder. You want the job that is best suited for you. You want to demonstrate that you are the best person for the job, no matter how many other people there are out there. You're going to present yourself in a way that is the only conclusion that a hiring manager can arrive at. You're going to look the part. You're going to speak the part. You're going to convey the message. You're going to create a win-win situation so that the person interviewing you will say, this person will make my job easier. Now, all that's in my book, but I'm going to start with prepare, plan, persist, and persevere. Make a list of what you want to accomplish each day. If you don't have a resume, you want to draft a resume. You want to tighten up your resume. You want to look at sample resumes. You want to talk to people. If you know HR people, if someone close to you or close to somebody that's close to you is an HR person, talk to them. You want to put your best foot forward. The list includes resumes, cover letters, short cover letters of interest, something that would pique somebody's interest. You want to make sure that you have a schedule, a set routine. You get up at the same time every day. You eat. You don't eat a lot so that you're sluggish. You want to stay fit. You want to stay engaged. You want to be focused. Each day, you cross off what you've done. One day you did your resume and cover letter. And you might as well draft your thank you letter so that when you get the interviews and you have to thank people, you have that. So maybe that's what you do the first day. Second day, you decide, let's see what kind of employers I'm interested in. You have to research. Go to the library. Look for books that will tell you about companies. What do you want to do? You want to be an engineer. You want to be a plumber. What do you want to do? You've got to know. You may see what Google says about career assessment resources. Go there. You start there if you don't know what you want to do. But you got to have a list so that you stay focused and on task. You want to be fit. As I said, you want to make sure that you are in shape and that you stay in shape. That not only helps your health, it enhances your personal appearance. Now, you don't have to look like a model or a movie star, but you want to convey the message that I am a professional. Whatever it is, the job that you want, you are a professional. You are a professional plumber. You are a professional truck driver. You are a professional, whatever it is, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a lawyer, whether it's a writer, whatever. You want to convey that I am here, eye contact. You want to look people in the eyes, smile, make them think, I like that person. I'd like to work with them. That's what you want to convey. You also want to convey that not only are you looking for a job, you're looking to be an asset to someone. You're looking to help someone make their job easier. So you create a win-win because usually when we look for a job, we only think, oh, I need a job. You have to think about the other side of that. That manager, that hiring person is looking for somebody to help them make their life easier. Very few people talk about that. You want to do enough research so you can talk to that person. You know what their job is, you know what they do, and how you can help them. Don't forget to check LinkedIn for that information. Find these people, find the people you're going to interview, and find them on LinkedIn. Now, you also want to you want to manage your mindset. Like I said, you can't start this thinking you're all that in a bag of chips. Because I'm telling you, there are too many people out there that have what you have. Unless you're curing cancer or something like that, there are too many people out there looking for the same job you're looking for. So you have to prepare yourself that you may hear some no's. There may be rejection, but rejection is only no for the time being. There's a yes right around the corner. You just have to persevere. You've planned, you've persevered, and you are proceeding with your job search. Okay? So now that's managing your mindset. Now, what else do you do? You manage your mindset and you make sure that your expectations are reasonable and realistic. Now, you can't go out thinking, oh, I'm going to be a vice president and you just graduated from college, or you just graduated from trade school and you want to be a master plumber. You have to be an apprentice first as a plumber. You may eventually achieve your ultimate goal, but you don't start there. So you have to have realistic and reasonable goals. I hope you do. I really do. But whatever your mindset is, please begin from a place of gratitude. Nobody, let me just say this clearly and unequivocally, nobody has to help you. No one. Okay? Anyone who helps you is doing you a favor and they're doing you a kindness. Thank them. You thank them in an email, you thank them in an e-card, and if you want to blow their mind, send them a handwritten note and a card thanking them. They don't do that anymore. I do it all the time and it sets me apart. I distinguish myself. I don't know what to tell you. Being different is not enough. You have to distinguish yourself. But as I said, people don't have to help you. Please always thank them. Always. I listened to a recording of hiring managers talking about the people they interviewed. And one hiring manager said if she doesn't get a thank you, she doesn't care how good the candidate is. She throws their resume in the garbage. You can't afford to let that happen. Why not send a thank you? Hopefully, you'll listen to me, but please begin from a position of gratitude. Now, I'm going to give you this career strategy, and hopefully, you'll take it to heart. First of all, don't overestimate your value on the open market. Be objective to the extent that you can and ask someone else whose opinion you trust what your skill sets are, what your pluses and minuses are. But look at LeBron James' career strategy. Just really very simplistic. He wanted, his goal was to become an NBA champion. Now, he set realistic goals. That was a realistic goal for him. He performed at the highest level. That's number two. You have to perform at a high level. You gotta. If you don't, you may not achieve your goals. You may only have a job. Now, he stayed in Cleveland for, I think it was 7 seasons. So he allowed a reasonable time within which to achieve his goals. Okay? He objectively evaluated his talents and marketability. People wanted him. Other teams wanted him. He knew that he could go somewhere else with a better chance to achieve his goal of becoming an NBA champion. What did he do? He relocated to Miami. He pursued and achieved his goals. So that's it. Set realistic goals, perform at a high level, allow a reasonable time within which to achieve these goals, and that is not 6 months. And objectively evaluate your talents and marketability. And if you're not curing cancer, there are plenty more out there with the skill sets you've got. You have to distinguish yourself and be prepared to relocate, to leave the job you have and get another job in the same area, in the same state, or move to another state. Those are my tips. Remember, prepare, plan, persist, and persevere. And proceed. Proceed and be successful. You can do it. And your GPS to employment success, how to find and succeed in the right job, can be your guide. Until next time, I'll be talking to you solo again in the not too distant future. Thank you for listening. Until next time. Thanks for listening to Your Employment Matters with Beverly Williams. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe and leave a review. I truly appreciate your support, and that helps other listeners find the podcast. If you have a comment, question, or suggestion, you can reach me at bawilliams@youremploymentmatters.com. My book, Get the Job Done, is available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Please join me again next week. Until then, remember to embrace change and differences.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.